Hey, it's David Andrew Weeb. I hope you had a really great summer. There's only a couple days left here as I've been recording this. But I've been watching those stats, and it seems like some of you have been anticipating a new episode of the Creativity, Excitement, Emotion podcast. And specifically, it seems like you were anticipating it at the beginning of September. Look, I think I was hoping for the same thing. Things just didn't work out that way, but here we are, brand new episode, and there's a lot of great stuff coming. So as a listener of this show, there's something that I've been meaning to gather your thoughts on. There's someone that's been checking in on the show, occasionally listening in, and to be fair, like the last couple years of my life, really the last few years of my life, really have been challenging in a lot of different ways. As much as you try not to let that spill out over everyone, it can still come through in your speech because there's just no way not to be impacted by what's going on in your life, even as you're trying to produce great quality content and positivity to share out and put out into the world. What he said to me was, it just seems like he compared it to those social media sob stories that people post on Facebook all the time. Oh, woe is me. Look what happened. Doesn't this suck? Just to get sympathy and validation. And I can tell you right now, I got no sympathy or validation for the kinds of podcast episodes I put out there. I think there's barely so much as 2 comments, and they were nothing to do with sympathy, let alone empathy, someone standing in my shoes and feeling what it's like to be me. I don't see any of that, but I wasn't seeking it, you see, and that was not my intention. I was putting out content that I honestly thought I was trying to capture some magic in the bottle as it was happening. I didn't want these ideas to slip away, so I was recording them on the spot. Like I said, there were some tough moments, and that is also reflected in some of the rental drama stories I told. The crux of the matter is, I've been practicing sharing my stories because I can see that's a more powerful way to communicate than just telling you how to do this and how to do that. And you know how much I like to get into that. I'm a cerebral guy. That's the way I talk a lot of the time. That's the way I think about things a lot of the time. There's sort of an intellectual basis for everything. Either way, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Did you think that the early part of the podcast or this last batch of episodes was a little too social media sob story-like? Is that the impression you got from it? Or did it seem more like I was trying to capture magic in a bottle? Love to hear your thoughts. Either way, I am going to stash away those audios for now. I think there's 150 or 200 some odd audios. And by the way, it's not like I was posting all of them. Some of them were just so meandering that I had to delete them. I started out editing them before I went oh no, this is worthless. I can't actually post this to the show. So I know some audios were like that. I'm going to stash them all away for now. And I've got some other things in the can to share with you, including some interviews, which are kind of overdue. There's going to be some solo episodes too, of course. Today's episode is basically a solo episode. There's also something I wanted to share that's a little more behind the scenes. And there's this group that I've been getting together with for a while. It started out as Clean Slate, so the people that ultimately brought you the event in February, that would be myself, Jody and Carlo, although we're grateful for everyone else that supported and was involved and became a sponsor and all that kind of stuff. 3 of us are effectively responsible for that, and the group evolved. And we started certain challenges. We had something called Spark 90, which was creating 90 videos in 4 weeks to post to social media. That evolved into Spark Infinity, and that's the current format that we've got going, where we have a Spark Infinity office hours, we record it, and we post it to YouTube. I'm going to label the specific episodes that belong to those conversations as Spark Infinity, in case you want to skip them. I don't see why you would. I think there's a lot of quality stuff that you will want to listen to, even if it's just everyday ordinary conversation. We tend to mention tools and tips and techniques and tactics that we're exploring ourselves that you may also want to look into. A lot of cool stuff. So I would suggest that these episodes are going to be very engaging, but just in case, I will label them Spark Infinity. So the first ever Spark Infinity office hours is just me. You're about to hear it here in a moment, but sometimes I'm joined by Carlo, sometimes I'm joined by Jody, and sometimes I'm joined by both of them. But today you get to enjoy an episode with just me. I am David Andrew Wiebe. It's a little bit of inside baseball. I don't want to dwell. I don't want to spend a lot of time on context, but I think we're all going to benefit from it. So let's talk about how we got here. The Spark Infinity team consists of the same people that created and brought you the event Clean Slate, which happened in February. It's all documented on my blog at davidandrewwiebe.com. We did some things and some things went well. Some things did not go exactly as expected. But reflecting on it, I am definitely proud of the table rush or the merch table rush I'd created for that event. That part worked well. In hindsight, I may have brought up one of the bands much sooner in the program. I would have reworked the program a little bit. But some of those things you can't know without gaining some experience. I'm glad to have gained some of that experience running this event. So this group includes Carlo and Jody. The two of them are not here today, not able to make it, but I expect they will be joining in on future conversations, and I highly, highly value what they're going to be sharing and what they're going to be contributing and bringing to these conversations as well. Carlo being skilled photographer, and now he's gotten into a lot of web design, graphic design, and the occasional audio editing and thing like that. And I know Jody's skilled musician, excellent hairstylist, excellent brand expert who also designs graphics. So we're all here for different reasons, but we've got some things in common. And the main thing that we've got in common is that we want to grow our social media. That is one of the things, or really one of the main takeaways of having run the Clean Slate event. Yeah, so we decided to start taking social media a little more seriously. And we watched a presentation by Peng Joon. I can't remember the exact details off the top of my head, but if I recall correctly, in this presentation, he talked about creating 120 pieces of content in 3 days or 4 days or something along those lines. Later in discussion, we're like, okay, he says he's creating 3 months worth of content. 120 pieces, if you're publishing daily, actually sounds like 4 months worth of content, but I think I figured out what this is. So he's creating 90 videos and 30 Instagram quote cards. I think that's the way he has that systematized. Either way, that presentation, which Jody and I watched together, inspired this whole idea, this challenge that we call Spark 90. At first it was Spark 120, and as I mentioned earlier, through conversation, we're like, why is it 120? I think the idea here is to create 90 videos, which we publish over the course of 90 days. So that's what we engaged in. That's the project we created. It was a 4-week project. So we didn't go on the same timeline as Peng Joon. That felt a little bit insane. But we decided, hey, over the course of the 4 weeks, we can plan the content, we can film the content, we can edit the content, and be prepared to publish the content. So the idea was to make 90 videos in 4 weeks. Now, everyone got different results during those 4 weeks. I did end up making over 90 videos, but I didn't get around to editing them or turning them into Instagram quote cards. So the project is a success to the extent that I created something that did not exist before, but those videos have yet to be published because they're not edited. So Carlo had different results. Jody had different results. I think they were both thinking about maybe it could be a Spark 30 thing. Maybe it could be a Spark 10 thing. They were thinking differently about their social media output and what they were planning to do. I will let them do the talking on that once they're able to participate in a discussion. So after Spark 90, we decided to take a little bit of a break for the summer, and I had an idea. Why don't we turn this thing into Spark Infinity instead of Spark 90? Because the whole thing about social media is it's not really just about 90 days. Like, it would be really efficient if you could spend 4 weeks planning the content, making the content, editing the content, and then queuing it up in Creator Studio or whatever other tool you're using. That would be super efficient. But bottom line is, the content hamster wheel doesn't really come to an end. You need to keep generating things, and you need to figure out an efficient way of doing that. I'm starting to clue in on a far more efficient way of doing that, creating a presentation like this and then breaking it down into smaller pieces. Uh, I'm at the point now where I've got so much content that I can repurpose and reuse and update and synthesize. And you will probably see me doing more of this. And every time I do that, I always look to improve it. I'm not just looking to combine things because it's cool or because it's better for SEO. I'm still looking to create the best quality stuff I can make. But because I've got so much, there's no point in me creating more than one piece of content per week, just to let you know that I'm still here and I'm still alive. You'll probably see many more things. In fact, you will see many more things going live if you follow me on social media or if you check out the website at davidandrewweeb.com. So it's Spark Infinity because realistically, you've got to keep producing content. It's not a one and done thing. And that's how we got here. So let's get into what we're about. Now, I don't know if I have this all dialed in just yet. We might choose to revise this or improve upon it, but based on the conversations I've had with the boys, I would say this is effectively what we're about. These three core values or key principles. First is growth. So everyone participating, we each have our reasons for wanting to grow our social media presence. I'm looking to sell more books if it really what it comes down to. I think Jody wants to share his music or get more clients. I think Carlo wants to get more clients. We each have our reasons for doing it. And we are creating growth in engagement, following, subscribers, and sales or other desired actions. There's a little bit of languaging going on there. I think most people would say we were about to create or we're going to create. And I can see the value in phrasing things in present tense or past tense rather, because I think the brain just interprets it differently. So that's why I've languaged things the way I have. If it sounds a little bit weird, that's why. We are creating growth and engagement following subscribers and sales or other desired actions, meaning we're already in action and we're already doing it, which is very much true because I have seen Jody's output go up. We're about doing what works. There's just so many people out there who can tell you how it should be done, but most of it doesn't work. Now, have you had that experience? I know I have. So we are finding and creating strategies and tactics that work, realizing the results we desire. And we're keen to share what's working in this group as well. We're also not about perfection or perfectionism. I think there's a big difference between what works and what looks good. And if success means looking messy, we'll choose that over great design. I see people make this mistake all the time, that when they look at one website A, which has a poor design, and website B, which has a super nice, dialed in modern design, and their automatic response is, oh, website B looks like an incredible business. It must be making so much more money. When the truth is, so often, A, the messy website, is far outperforming website B, the professional looking website. On social media, and Jody definitely pointed this out, on social media, it seems like people are posting all kinds of things. They don't really care about being messy. They don't really care about being quick. That kind of stuff seems to do well. Memes do well. Cat GIFs or cat GIFs do well. We've all seen it. So trying to be perfect is going to get in the way of speed. And that's one thing I forgot to add here. I think that might be a good thing to add to what we're about is speed, moving fast. So with social media, really content creation in general, the whole point is to get started and stay started and then adjust course as you go, dial it in as you go. In the entrepreneurial culture, and I really feel like it's always been this way, that regardless of how good your research you think it might be, there's always a process of testing things. And that's the right way to frame it. We don't want to frame everything as a failure or success. It's better to frame it as we're testing things. And we need to throw a lot of hooks in the pond to see which ones the fish are going to react to. So I want to share about what I've done so far, because the moment I decided this was Spark Infinity is the moment I decided to get into action, just like that. First thing I did was create a new folder on my desktop, and I called it Spark Infinity. I do have a folder on my desktop called Spark 92, and I will be dropping all my videos in there and editing all of them and getting them ready for publishing too. I still want to do something with the Spark 90 content I created, but I wanted to create something or a situation where it was so easy to be sustainable and consistent. That's the whole idea of Spark Infinity. That 11 a.m. time block for Facebook and Instagram when I've chosen to post it is where I post the stuff that feels the most sustainable and fun and interesting and consistent to me. Stuff that takes more energy or is maybe harder to do or takes more time will be reserved for a different time block. That was my mindset. So within the Spark Infinity folder, I created a folder called First Push. And the First Push folder is where I would store a fresh set of Instagram quote cards and captions. I store my captions in a Word document. They all go in there. I don't create separate Word documents for each caption. So you can see a little bit inside the folder for the First Push, and here's what happened. So I got started, and the reason I really felt to get back into social media, I think it was July 18th, and that date comes up later as well. The reason I decided I wanted to get back into this is because I got some positive feedback on my book, Productivity, Performance, Profits, Blackbook, to be specific, on social media. So I decided, well, that's a great customer testimonial. I would love to share that out. So that's when I started thinking about other content. I pulled quotes or ideas from my book, and I created 9 days worth of posts. Even if it looks like more summer carousels, meaning there are some posts that 3 quote cards or 4 quote cards or even 5 or 6 go together in the same post. I loosely used my brand fonts and colors. I've gone very, very simple. You can see it on my website. I think messing around with various colors and various fonts and all that kind of stuff is fun, but at some point, just to standardize it, and for me, keeping it simple, keeping it a high contrast design, for now, it works. I looked at some other websites that I liked that were clearly professionally designed, and I modeled them to suit my ends. So black, white, and then I have a purple accent on my website. The purple is used very, very sparingly, though. So multiple posts went out the same day by mistake. I'll talk more about mistakes later. This was not intentional, but I think the first 3 posts all went out on the same day on Instagram. I was scheduling them in Creator Studio, not realizing that you do schedule your Facebook and Instagram posts separately. So you set the date for one and you set the date for another. Ultimately, I don't think any downsides to that, but that's one of the things that happened with the First Push. I didn't use really any call to actions. I think there was one pointing people to visit my website to check out my new book, but that was it. Then I got ready for the second push, and I created 8 more posts, much the same as the first. Basically, that's 8 days worth of posts, right? And less visual variation than the first time around, which is really what makes them easy to create. There's no evolution. I didn't take some learnings from the first push and implement them in the second push. But that's okay, because again, sustainability and consistency was the point. That was more important than looking pretty, especially in the early going. I got my third push going. So I created 10 more posts this time. And I started working my book cover into the rotation. So if a quote or an insight or an idea was posted, I wanted people to know where it was from. So within the carousel, they'd be able to scroll over and see the book cover from which the insight or quote came from. That was one little tweak I made. Then fourth push. You can see that I was starting to find my rhythm a little bit more here. I ended up creating 19 posts. I started working more video content into the rotation, although I think there was just one video post, but I really wanted to start working some of that type of content into the rotation too. And I also tried some shoutouts, which I think are well worth doing. So a little bit more variation in the fourth push. And then the fifth push, which is where I'm at right now. This time I created 50 posts. So I definitely found my beat. I found my jam. I started having more fun with it, and it went a lot faster this time. I'm still sticking to my basic website brand or colors and fonts and so forth. I decided, though, that I wanted to go with a black background and white text instead of the white text, or instead of the black text on the white background. I feel like it stands out a little bit better and suits me a bit better, but who knows? I might just keep rotating. Depends on the results. I also started adding clear call to actions. So every carousel features one image asking people to follow me and one image specifically directing people to my book along with the link. I also, with the fifth push, I started using AI to assist me in writing captions. Assist really being the key word here, because I still find, and this is what I've been finding all along, and this is what I've been finding for months because I am a prompt engineer with big tech now. AI does tend to produce a lot of low quality stuff. It makes errors and inaccuracies, and it also hallucinates. Now, with social media posts, there's probably a smaller margin of error, but I'm still finding it has trouble following my instruction. I may ask it, for example, to create a 1800 character caption, yet it seems to be so bad at math that it simply cannot and does not know how to do that. So, what AI produces, it's pretty rare for me to use it exactly as it's generated. There's going to be some editing. I want to make sure that it sounds like me, that it's not so out there that no one can imagine David Andrew Weeb is saying it. And just based on the fact that it tends to produce content that's above the character limit on Instagram captions, trim it down as well. In the future, I might talk about the tool I'm using to generate those captions, but not today. With the fifth push, I'm only on day 3, and this content is still being rolled out. So the 50 posts that I created. But as you can imagine, it does feel pretty good to have 50 pieces worked out. That covers about a month and a half. Mistakes were made, as I mentioned earlier. And here are some of the mistakes that have been made along the way. One that's not even mentioned here is some of my posts use the wrong font. Not like you would care that much, not like you may not even notice, but some of my posts do use the wrong font. Some posts were published at the wrong time. We talked about that. Some carousels went out in the wrong order. So I think there was one case specifically where I wanted my website address to show before my book, or maybe my book to show before my website address. And either way, they got mixed up. Some posts went out without captions, and some posts included spelling or grammatical mistakes. Does it matter? No, it really doesn't seem to matter all that much. I think occasional mistakes are par for the course. They're human, and they don't seem to affect the performance of the posts. Posts containing mistakes sometimes get more engagement, and fundamentally, Spark Infinity doesn't believe in perfectionism, so we're not that worried about it. It's okay to be messy. Being messy might and probably does work in your favor. What I've seen so far, I've experimented with some Instagram promotion services for free. That's where a lot of extra likes and followers initially came from. There were people that let me try their service for a week or a couple of weeks or a day. So I said, why not? But the offers kept coming. And finally, I decided, because there was one person specifically that seemed to deliver some pretty cool results, I began experimenting with paid promotion. This has played heavily into the results I've gotten so far. I might only be getting 5 to 10 likes per post if I wasn't using any paid promotion, which would really be the status quo. At this point, I still don't know what's going to work best. Random followers probably aren't going to help me that much. The more relevant they are, the more targeted they are, the better. But I'm doing the best I can to produce content that's targeted to attract the people I'm looking for. I haven't done any deep dives into the stats yet, but you can see the results that I've gotten so far from these efforts. Again, probably the only reason they would even look impressive is because of some of the promotion, the free and paid promotion that I've received. So you can see from here that it's a time frame of July 18th, which is pretty much when I got started with this, to September 4th. So accounts reached 5,299, and then 1,695 accounts were engaged. And in that time, I'm getting a bunch more followers right now, but initially it was right around August 9th, August 8th or something like that, where I saw a huge boost in followers. And that's when I decided to go with a specific Instagram promotion service. I've basically seen an overall increase of 298 followers. And my follower count is now much bigger than my following count, which is what you want. I haven't done any deep dives yet, but here's a couple of stats that might matter. I figured out from looking at those stats that roughly 32% of people who saw my posts interacted with them in some way, shape, or form. That's pretty good. I actually don't know how that compares. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. But in my mind, I'm thinking if roughly 1 in 3 people looking at my posts did something with them, I'm on a good path. So far, my posting efforts have not led to any sales. There could be a bajillion reasons for that, but I think first and foremost is to grow a following, grow engagement, and then eventually you're going to start to see those sales. So in closing, would love to hear what you got out of this. We want to hear your thoughts, so leave a comment wherever you happen to be watching this. And also let us know, what would you like us to cover on the office hours in the future? Social media news and trends, topical discussions, expert interviews, the results of our experiments like I've been sharing today, all of the above, or something else. Love to hear from you. And would you like to join us as a participant and contribute to the conversations? Would you like to be a part of Spark Infinity? We might have to create some kind of application process unless you happen to be someone from the Team Management Leadership Program or Global Information Network. However, if you're interested in applying and being held accountable and actually doing something with social media, we'd love to hear about it. So let us know in the comments. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, especially if you want to keep up with this journey. My username is @DavidAndrewWeeb. The trickiest part about that is the 2 W's that are next to each other, Andrew Weeb, Wiebe. So Instagram, David, AndrewWiebe. Thanks for joining us for the office hours. We'll see you again next time. Unlock the secrets to skyrocketing your productivity, boosting performance, and maximizing profits with my latest premium guide, the Productivity, Performance, and Profits Blackbook. Tailored for independent artists and entrepreneurs, this comprehensive resource is your roadmap to turning ideas into reality. Say goodbye to abandoned projects collecting dust on your shelves or buried in your hard drives. It's time to bring your vision to life. Grab your free copy of the Productivity, Performance, and Profits Blackbook now at davidandrewweeb.com/blackbook. That's WIEBE. Don't miss out on the key to unlocking your success.